And now it's my pleasure to introduce our main speaker, Don from West LA.
I don't know. When in Rome, do as the Romanians, I always say. My name is Don, and I am an alcoholic. And, and you guys hear this probably all the time. I hear it from where Terry and I. In fact, what is really great, Bruce, is Terry and I live about 2 miles from Ohio Street in Brentwood. I mean, we know exactly, been there many a time. And happy birthday, and happy birthday, Manny, wherever you went. And welcome to the newcomers. And so we have the birthday guys, we have the newcomers. I have only one wish, is that you had a better speaker tonight. That would have, but you got me, and I never know how I'm perceived, and I've been around a while, and the hair turned gray and went back and everything, and someone that isn't here tonight, you might say, how was the speaker, and you don't know what you're going to get from me. You might, and I don't know how you perceive me, you might think, oh, good, tonight we have a kindly old grandfather. Nope, I am a gangster, all right? And I have the rap sheet to prove it. And, we only share what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. What it was like was really a long time of thinking that I was above the law. And, it took me a little while, but I do thank the justice system for getting me to Alcoholics Anonymous the first time. I didn't, the thing is, it wasn't my fault that I went. I know, but now I'm going to tell you how it happened. It wasn't Terry, but my girlfriend at the time, I guess I was being stupid or something. I was drunk, and she said, get out of here and take this with you. And this was a machine gun that I was keeping down at her house because the cops were always at my house. And so, you'll never see me again. I'll never darken that door. And out I went, and if I would have just done what many of you would have done, go out to your car, open the trunk, put the weapon in the car, and close the trunk, which I would have done if I would have had a car. I was between cars at the time, and what happened, and it's like about 3 o'clock in the morning on Harper Street in Hollywood, and I got to get back to North Hollywood, and so I start up Harper Street, and I figured as long as it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's dark, I figure, if I'm going up the street, I might as well look good. So there I'm walking up the street, and some son of a gun, rat fink, must have seen me and ratted me out to the cops, and all of a sudden, all of these lights, no sirens because it's the middle of the freaking night, and all of these lights coming and drop the gun, whatever. And I'm there, and I realized I could be in trouble. But when I saw them, I snuck the gun into the bushes, and then tried to look nonchalant, the best I could. Well, I wasn't fooling them. It's Sheriff's Department in West Hollywood, And so he came up there, and he says, we're looking for a tall guy with a gun. And he said rifle. And I said, well, I know, officer, that's what I'm trying to get out of here. It's a dangerous neighborhood. And he did not take that seriously. He did not. He was a young punk cop, and he got right up in my face and says, look, if you don't tell us where that gun is, I'm going to arrest you for drunk. I didn't want to go to jail. I'd make myself look bad in front of my ex-girlfriend over there. And by this time, what has started is there's people starting to come out. They see all these lights, and they have this guy, and I start dealing with the police officer. I said, look, officer, If I tell you where the gun is, would you not send me to jail? And he said, Don, you look at these people, listen to me. If you tell me where that gun is, you have my word of honor as a police officer. I will not arrest you. And so I thought it over with this masterful mind, in which there is a peculiar mental twist, as it's mentioned in the big book, and there's probably not one under there, but there's water in case I need that. And so I said, should I take the misdemeanor behind bush number 1, or the felony behind bush number 2? And I've only been here for about 5, 6, 7 minutes. You know what I did, don't you? I told him where the gun was. And he went over and he grabbed the gun and he's holding it up over his head like they've just captured Oswald. And the people on the curbs are applauding everything. They've caught this bandit or whatever they thought. But I got to say this, because we're taught, newcomers, we are taught to tell the truth. We got to be honest. Not only do we have to be honest, we have to be rigorously honest. So I got to tell you that the cop absolutely did not arrest me, which he had his partner arrest me. So I guess technically we were off. I go to the jail, and I'm facing pretty heavy charges, and somehow I called, you get one phone call. I don't know if they said that, but I called. We used to remember numbers in those days. It was many years ago, back at 69, I guess it was. And so I called her, and I said, you caused this and everything, and they're going to take me away forever, and I'm too pretty to be going into prison. So, and believe it or not, okay. And so she gets me a lawyer because she somehow wants to save me. And thank God for women that wanted to save me. I couldn't have lasted as long as I did. And she got me a lawyer from somewhere, Dickens and Shyster or someplace. I don't remember where it was. And he did. He was a good lawyer. He got it, and I pleaded to brandishing a firearm in the city limits, time served. I had to get 6 signed court cards. I had to get them signed, and I had 1 year probation. And so I had dodged that one, and I went to a place in North Hollywood called Radford. Some of you may or may not have heard of it. And a couple of heads were like the back of a car, And I went in there, and you know what I saw? I saw a bunch of old people in there, and all of them so happy, and I'm blessed. God has blessed me. My children have come back. My husband is working. I found a parking place out front, and I'm thinking, what a bunch of lames, But the fact of the matter is, I was the only guy with a court card in the basket. So who's the lame now? But I did get my court card signed. I got 6 signatures. Went there 6 times. As I said, I was I was between cars, taking the bus down and the bus back. It was only 25 cents in those days. And then after I got my court card signed, I never went back until some 11 years later. I'd been out late and drinking. The last actual drink besides beer that I had was cooking sherry. And you got to be pretty much an alcoholic to drink cooking sherry, but I did it. And I was sitting. I had an apartment above a garage, a 1-bedroom, a little tiny place, and I'm sitting in there. I had my desk in the living room. I mean, there's no room for anything, and I'm looking at myself, and it was just getting a light. It was turning like 6 o'clock. I had stopped at 7-Eleven and waited 5 minutes till I could legally buy a 6-pack of beer. Budweiser, the king of beers, so I am somebody. And I'm sitting there, and I decided that life had treated me so crummy, and I was feeling so sorry for myself. I decided to kill myself. but I was going to go out in a blaze of glory. I was going to get my Marine officer's uniform with the medals on it, pearl-handled .45, which would have been so good, Bruce, if I would have just been in the service. I never was in the service, So I'm looking all around the house for something to kill myself with, and I come up with a 6-inch Ginsu serrated steak knife, guaranteed for a lifetime. He was going to make it, okay? And I'm just getting ready to, and by the way, and newcomers, please don't listen. Do not cut your wrist. I already had tried that years ago, and it just hurts like hell when you put your watch back on. So don't do that. And you don't die. You have to face it, and your clothes are all bloody and all that. It sucks. But I read somewhere that if you'll cut your throat real low, not as low as Lorena Bobbitt cut, but at least low enough to take care of business, and I'd go see God or whatever. And some guy that was a lame on his way to work drove by, and I said this was apartment was above the garage, and he sees a light on at 6 in the morning or 6:30 or whatever it was. And he says, "What the heck is Don doing up at this time?" And he went and he knocked on the door. And I went to the door and I had my Ginsu and I said, "Yeah." And he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm killing myself." He said, "With that?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Can I come in?" And he says, "Can I use your phone?" And I said, "Yeah, use my phone. I don't care. I'm not going to need it anymore." So he gets the phone book, and we had newcomers. We used to have these books with phone numbers in them. And he's looking in there, and he calls the suicide lady up, and not the suicide lady. That'd be stupid. He called the anti-suicide lady, and she says, "You sound like you've had a couple tonight." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Have you ever tried Alcoholics Anonymous?" And I said, "Well, yes, I did." Yeah. And she said, "Well, I think probably you ought to try and do that and wait and see. You might be killing the wrong person." And Stuart was there, and I said, I'm going to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not going to kill myself. And I didn't go that day. I went the next day, and it was Thursday. And Thursday at noon is book study day. There's nothing like a book study for a guy who's hungover and doesn't want to go there, but there I was. I walked in there, and they said, "Open your books up," and the chapter was, I don't have to make this stuff up, newcomers, it just happens for us, it was 2 wives, all right? And I liked that there was an S on the end, because, I was not afraid of commitment. I was willing to marry at the drop of a few $100s, or whatever. I don't know, however it worked. And I don't know up here, I might have the record in married women. I think if I think back on it, I have had 8 wives, okay? And no, only 3 of them were mine, sir. But I like to. At my age, I'm bragging about those other 5. All right, okay. And so the deal is, I'm going over there, and they start talking about stuff, and they start talking about different things, and I'm not listening, and I'm stirring, and then I start thinking, well, yeah, I did that, and he's here, and look at him, he's got a clean shirt on, and so on and so forth, and I thought, I might come back tomorrow when I feel better, and I did indeed get back the next day, and the next couple of days, and as we had a thing out by Radford Clubhouse. Benches out there, and we called them the half measures benches of people that hadn't gone in. And I would walk by, and this one fella by the name of Cliff would say, "Hey, Don, 11th day, way to go, kid." And I thought, how in the world could he remember that? And the people were kind, and I started hearing stuff. And then after, it took me a little while, but I asked Clifford to be my sponsor, and what he said was, why did it take you so long? And because it did. and we started in on my journey. And he was just a delightful guy. He was my spiritual guide, okay? And to tell you, he was an actor, and he is, if you ever saw the movie The Hustler with Paul Newman, Cliff was the great big guy that broke Paul Newman's thumbs. And I knew I was in good hands with this guy, and he liked horses and I liked horses, and he was in the same business I was in, and so I knew I might have a shot. And little by little, I started coming, and when you work in show business, you have a lot of free time. So I was over at Radford, a lot of noon meetings and evening meetings, and and other meetings, Chandler Lodge and all around there, and I started, thinking, this might work. There's so many guys and gals saying, yes, this does work. And so, I'm going along, and at about, I think it was about 3.5 months, Clifford sits me down with the big book, and he's going to, I admitted I was powerless over alcohol, and I had come to believe, because I saw all you guys talking about God all the time, I've come to believe that power greater than myself could, a little something I was going to have to do in the future, could restore me to sanity. And so he tells me about this, and I'm supposed to write down people that I am mad at. I have a resentment, which is a really neat word for I'm pissed off, and then I was supposed to write down some fears. What? Man like myself? I was afraid all the freaking time. And then, and sexual problems. And I wasn't quite sure that I had any problems. It was them. If they would just behave, things would probably go pretty well. Then I started bragging to Cliff about, you do this thing where you go on location and so on and so forth. Women here, women there. Yeah. He says, we don't care how many people you've slept with. We want to know if you can not take a drink for the rest of the day. And he said, by the way, we have a page for sexual athletes like yourself. It's page 69. And I thought, oh man, he's jacking me around here on this. But of course, he was my sponsor, so I went home to read it, and I thought it was going to tell me how to get more women, but no, it said I can't be selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate, and I can't unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness. I don't know how it is in Ventura, but that cut out about 95% of my action right there. And so the deal is that I loved Clifford by this time. He was such a neat guy. And he would take me, on 12-step calls with him. And we'd be at the end of the meeting, instead of going looking for ladies, he'd get some old guy over there with one tooth, that had a cavity in it. And then we'd go over and 12-step him. And he'd say, and what about you, Don? And I'd say, well, I haven't had a drink, and it's coming up on 6 months now, and I feel pretty good. I don't have a car yet, but I have a bus pass, so that was up for me, and little by little, and I'm gonna, and you newcomers, this is for you. If you have a sponsor, and hopefully you do, someone, a man or woman, to take you through this thing, and they come and they say, how's that 4-step going? Don't tell them, great, because they'll know you're lying, because if you are doing your 4-step, you're coming to your sponsor and say, oh my God, you know what I found out? I found out I'm a liar, a cheap. I'm not accepting life on life's terms. I'm not trusting God. I'm an unlicensed mind reader, and all of the, and that way the sponsor and the people around know that you're doing the inventory. But it took me a while, and we tell the truth around here, and I'll tell you how long it took me. It took me until I was 11 months sober. And I was at a meeting on Moore Park in North Hollywood, and this kid from New Jersey, a biker, 17 years old, tattoos all up and down his arms, and he came over to me and he says, hey, Don, would you be my sponsor? And I said, why, yes, I'm going to run it by Clifford over here. And I went over to Cliff and I said, Cliff, Steve wants me to be his sponsor. You know what Clifford said? Poor Steve. And I said, what are you talking about? I go on 12-step calls with you. I'm at meetings all the time. I'm not drinking. He says, you can tell him how not to drink for 11 months, but you can't tell him how to do a 4-step because you haven't done one. Had me on a technicality right there, okay? So I'm over here and I'm I'm writing that my mother didn't come to my football games, and we're Paula's over, I'm trying to beat him, and we both finished it up, and I was able to read my 4-step, and I was then able to listen to his 4-step, and it started off like that. And what happened is, my little teeny Don M. life got one man bigger, and I got to start caring about someone besides myself. And it was an accident. I did not mean to do it, but it just happened for me. And lo and behold, another guy came into my life, David, and another guy, and little by little, I started sharing this program with other men on the program. And we had great times, and I remember, and it's important, there is a thing that says it's in working with others, nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. And so, that's great, and that's a wonderful thing to do, but I'm going to tell you, newcomer, the news is not as good as that might be. You're not going to stop. You will stop drinking if you work with alcoholics all the time and you're talking to alcoholics all the time. But that's just the drinking part of this program. To have a spiritual awakening, you have to have a bunch of spiritual experiences. It's like an alarm clock with the snooze alarm. You're waking up, and you have a wake-up experience, and then you get out of bed, you start walking around, and you have an awakening. And that is the thing, and that comes through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the guys back, it's coming up on 90 years, just about 1 year from now, on the 3rd through the 6th in Vancouver, Canada, we're going to be celebrating 90 years of Alcoholics Anonymous. One drunk talking to another drunk. And these guys started out, and one guy had 6 months, and the other guy had 10 days, and they went over to 12-step alcoholic number 3, Bill Dotson. And so, if God wants something said, he does not have a wristwatch. He'll have whoever is talking say it. And so we learn a lot from newcomers. And sometimes I think when someone wet comes into a meeting, that's probably a better 12-step than I'll give all day long in anything I share. And so we're going along, and things are great, and now I've finished, and guys are coming in. And what happened was, and I'll just tell you this story because it's kind of a fun story, because we don't start off being awesome at our 12-stepping. So a guy calls over to Bradford, and the old-timers are in the playing cards in there, and I answer the phone, Alcoholics Anonymous, may I help you? And I don't know what he said, I'm dying of alcoholism, could you send some guys over? And I said, why, yes, we will. And I hang up, and none of the old-timers want to go. So I look around, and at my second sponsee, David, he was a rock star, and he had 90 days, all right? And I'm looking around for someone else, and the only other guy that I could find was a guy we called English Bill, and he had 12 days, okay? So and by this time I did have a car. It was an old used car, and we got in it, and I'm feeling good because I'm the head drunk, so that feels pretty daggone good. And so, and we go over, and we find the guy's house, or apartment, and I go to the door, and I knock on the door. Sounds sort of like my door, but the same, yeah. And he comes to the door, and he's got a an undershirt on and schmutz all over it and baggy pants. And he says, "Yeah, who are you?" I said, I'm Don. You called me a minute ago." He said, "Oh yeah, I remember now. Who are these guys?" And I said, "Well, they're with me." And he said, "Oh, well then come on in." So we walked in, and I'm going to give you a picture of what this place looked like. From here to the second row, over, down, back, a bachelor apartment. And it had a little alcove there where there was a stove and all that, oven and everything, and pizza boxes on the floor, and it had a bathroom up there. He had a cat, and the cat had long since beaten the cat box, I can tell you that for sure. And there was no furniture. There was one piece of furniture. It was a cinder block bookcase, and it had a copy of The Prophet there to get girls, okay? So that's what I'm saying. And the bedding was on the floor, no bed, but it's there. And so I'm down there on the floor with him. Yes, alcohol is a terrible foe, and you need help from Alcoholics Anonymous. And whatever I was saying, I was doing the best I could, and he wasn't hearing it. So I looked over at Dave, and I said, "Oh." And Dave gets down, and he says, "Well, I'm sober for 90 days, and I'm going down to Florida to do a record, and my career may come back. I got thrown out of a rock band for drinking too much." That's hard to do, I'm telling you, but he pulled it off. My guys, what can I tell you? And apparently he didn't like rock and roll or something, and we're in trouble. We got a guy over here with 12 days. And I went, "You're in." And he says, he gets down, guy's name was Bruce. He gets down and he says, "Bruce, if you don't stop drinking alcohol, you're going to lose all this." Bruce stopped using alcohol. 20 years later, David and I at a convention at the Universal gave him a 20-year cake. I suppose he's fine. Why wouldn't he be? And that is the deal. So I'm going along, and I get a birthday and another birthday, and I make it up to 5 years sober, and I haven't married anybody, which is for me, new grounds for me. And I ran into this young lady over here, and we started dating, and I was still not quite well. And she had a couple of kids, and I was thinking, and I wasn't sure, and we did break up. And I know you won't believe this, but she did not speak to me for 11 years, all right? And also got married in between. How rude. I didn't get married in between. And she, like if I was standing with someone and she'd come up and talk to them and just, shine me on. And I made 2 amends to her. But she thought the amends was for me, and she just didn't want to talk to me. But I'm going to tell you what happened, because she's sitting here. You might figure that something must have happened. And she came to a meeting called Church of the Chimes. It was upstairs in a church. And she comes through the door, and she was late. It was just about to start, and she's looking around, and there's no chairs. And I look over, and I go, and she didn't want to disrespect the meeting, so she came over and sat down right next to me, looking straight forward. I thought, "Oh, okay, all right." And the guy that was leading that night, his name was Mark. And we started the meeting up, and he says, "Hello, my name is Mark, and I'm an alcoholic." And I turned to Terry, and I said, "His name's Mark." And she kicked me. And it was on, okay? And it's we just celebrated our 28th wedding anniversary on Cinco de Mayo. And that applause is deserved, but it's reserved for people like you, for 2 really good sponsors getting us through every little thing that comes up. and working the program and doing these steps, doing the 10th step, going back and, when we're mad at someone, writing it down. Now, newcomers, I'm going to give you a heads up. I'm going to tell you something that it isn't written down in the book, but tell them Don told you this. The next time you get angry with someone and you have a resentment against them, I am going to tell you why. They aren't doing what you want them to, all right? And that's it, and that's it. And we have to deal with that. We look for causes and conditions, and the conditions are the people around us, fears, this, that, and the other thing, relationships, and the causes are our defects of character. Well, again, it doesn't take a mathematician to realize that if we get rid of these defects of character, that we're going to not have to be mad at people. We don't have to like what they're doing, but it's like we learn that it's life on life's terms. We learn that perhaps that individual might be spiritually sick. And then my sponsor tells me to go forward and look at these fears, and our fears, defects of character. Yeah, it's not trusting God. And not trusting God after we said we were going to turn our will and our life over to God, that's lying. And you don't want to lie to God. That's not a good thing. And then that doggone thing about relationships, and I tried my very best to stop behaving like I have. And I'm not 100% there, but we're doing pretty good. We're doing darn good. And, life is pretty good for us. And in November, she and I are going to become great grandparents. My grandson and his wife are gonna have a baby. And this woman is pretty excited about that, and we'll probably, they're in Detroit. He's a policeman in Detroit. That's a thrill a minute for my daughter and me and Terry, but they're doing fine down there, and what a neat deal that it is. And the fact of the matter is, it would be almost impossible to be experiencing that if I would have had a drink. I do remember my daughter Heather, she just turned 50. This is her son. He's 26, 27, something like that. And I had a couple of breakups with my daughter, after Ethan was born. And she went away and went off somewhere and ended up in Ohio. And we had some good fortune come into our life, and we got to move and all that jazz. And she called and left a message and said, give me a call. And so I went to Clifford, pardon me for sweating. If I don't, I will explode. So, I don't want to hit the people. So, it's like, I went to my sponsor. I said, Heather found out about the will, the trust deed or whatever it is, and what do you think she wants? And Clifford said, why don't she call her and she'll tell you? And so I called her, and this gal that didn't want to have anything to do with me, she said, I miss you, Dad. And I realized Mom was trashing you, and I'd love to see you. And so it was a neat deal, and we have fun with the family, and so many things that we might have missed out on, but we didn't miss. And here's the deal: you're going to have, each one of you, even guys with a lot of time, gals with a lot of time, each one of us, a child of God, each one of us has come into a program that is going to allow us to some of our dreams could come true, and it's very possible, and but we need to put one foot in front of the other. I had some dreams, and they'll be different than your dreams, but I wanted to be able to make a living in show business. I love art, so I wanted to be able to go to museums. I had all these books, but I'm just looking at them. I wanted to look and I wanted to go to Europe, and I wanted to run a marathon, all right? And this is not exactly your marathon body, but I was younger then. I think I was 49. And Clifford told me that if you train, you can go out and you're not going to win the race, but you can finish it. And what happens is I trained several of the guys I sponsor. We would do running, and we did 10Ks and so on and so forth. And I was finally ready to go to New York. It was a New York City marathon, and I flew to New York City. And I always wanted to see, because I was in stage shows, and I love Broadway. I used to, when I was young, Columbia Records, I used to dance around my room to show tunes, and I'm straight, okay, so what I'm saying. But I could still dance, all right, and it's like, I wanted to see a Broadway show, and when I went to New York, I got my hotel, and it was the day before the marathon, and I went with one of the guys I sponsor, Scott R.'s mom, who lived in the Bronx, and I took her to see Phantom of the Opera, $15 a piece to lean on the little rail in the back, standing room only. And I don't know, I got chills here, and I saw Michael Crawford do Phantom of the Opera. And on the next day, I got up in the morning, and I went across the bridge, and I ran and completed the New York City Marathon. And and if you applaud that, you applaud some help from people training me, some help with, knowing that I could do it, wanting to realize my dreams. And what happened was, and a little bit of bragging, but bragging about AA, the guy that won the New York City Marathon that year, the guy from Kenya, little teeny guy, and in 2 hours and 14 minutes. And I thought to myself, well, anyone can run for 2 hours and 14 minutes, all right? Took a man like myself, a sober man, to run for 5 hours and 16 minutes. So, I'm just saying that's how it is. And then what happened was they gave us these little space blankets afterwards, and I'm running to get a cab, and son of a gun, two New Yorkers grabbed that cab. And they looked up at me, and they saw the blanket, and they said, "Today's your day. You take the cab." People are pretty daggone good. And so we all have dreams. And you newcomers, you have dreams. And you guys that are sitting here on your Saturday evening, you have some dreams. And if you have dreams and so you're around someone and they're saying, "You can't do that, you're too old, you're too short, you're too rich, you're too poor, you're too whatever," get the hell away from them, all right? And get around some men and women in Alcoholics Anonymous are dreaming. And here's the deal. We have, again, going to have another Olympics coming up, going to be in Paris. And what happens is they're going to take that torch around. They're going to carry that torch, and they're going to run, and then they're going to light the big torch and the thing. And some guy will get up to the microphone who probably, these are the only words he knows in English because he's in France, and he says, "Let the games begin." And everyone, ah. So what, you might be, if you're hurting and you're a newcomer and you've got less than 30 days and stuff isn't going too well from you, you're going to say, "Okay, Grandpa, we're glad that you got to go to Paris, and we got to go know that you got all those museums and that you ran around the marathon. We're really happy." But what does that have to do with Alcoholics Anonymous and not drinking? And I'm going to tell you. Nothing. Unless you're a man like myself who came in, found a man in whom the problem had been solved, did what he asked me, tried to help other drunks, and didn't drink a day at a time. Went to bed talking to God, woke up in the morning talking to God. That's what it has to do with Alcoholics Anonymous. And so what I'm going to ask everybody to please do this, I'm going back to LA, but I'm going to ask you to do this, all right? Don't do it for me, do it for yourself. And so, you have some dreams, all right? So wherever you are, you're going to go, you're going to say your prayers, you're going to meditate a little bit tonight, if that's how you do it. You're going to lay your head down on the pillows, a sober man, a sober woman, and look to the sky and say, let the dreams begin. Thanks.
Let's thank our speaker again.